Hello everyone! Yay! We have made it to part 13 of the Kaleidoscope Blanket by Catherine Bligh. Today we are going to start putting on the border to finish our blanket. Okay, so we are going to start with a slip knot on our hook. And you want to start in the square of any of your corners, okay? So here is let me zoom out a little bit so you can see. Okay, this is one of my corner motifs, and we want the square that makes the corner of it, okay? That's where you're going to start at, with the right side facing you. We're going to begin with a standing single crochet into the center single crochet of one of our corners, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and do my standing single crochet. Okay, so now I've done that. Then you're going to do a single crochet in the same stitch and a single crochet in the next 19 stitches. Okay, so in the same stitch that I did my standing single crochet, I'm going to do another single crochet and then a single crochet in each stitch across my square. Okay, so I've gotten to the next corner of my square. It's good that you stop and check your stitches. So after the first 2 single crochets that you did, make sure that you have 19 going across. When we get to the center single crochet of the next corner, you're going to put 2 single crochets into the same stitch. Okay, now we are at a triangle, and you're going to follow the same rules that we have been following. At the end of a single crochet row, you want 1 single crochet. At the end of a double crochet row, you want 2 single crochets. And we need to have 24 going down each side of a triangle. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start that now, and I will come back when I get to the tip of the triangle. Okay, so I have crocheted down my 24 stitches, including my stitch that's in the first single chain of my chain 4. Now, between this triangle and the next triangle, you're going to do single chain 2 together, okay? So I'm going to go back here and go inside the tip, that first chain 1, and pull up a loop, go into the first chain of the next triangle, okay? So go over here and go into that first chain 1 of the next triangle, yarn over and pull up a loop. Now you're going to have 3 loops on your hook, so yarn over and pull through all 3. Okay, now I'm going to work my 24 single crochets along this triangle. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and continue with that now. Okay, so I've worked my 24 single crochets down my triangle, and now I've come to a square. You should have a corner single crochet that's unworked. You're going to do a single crochet into that square, and now we come to another triangle, and you're going to continue to work your 24 single crochets down this triangle. When you get to the tip, remember you're going to do a single crochet and this single crochet together. Okay, so 2 single crochets together, and then continue on down. Okay, so I've made it down my row right here. all the way down my single crochets, and I'm at the next corner. Okay, so we have a corner square, and when I get to that corner square, I'm going to go ahead and put 2 single crochets into that corner stitch. Okay, so there's 1 and 2. Now I'm going to go ahead and crochet 19 single crochets down to the next corner of the square. And in that corner single chain of the next, not corner single chain, in that corner single crochet of the corner square, I'm going to put 2 more single crochets. So I'm going to go ahead and get down this row. And when I get to that last stitch from the square, after my 19 single crochets, I'm going to put 2 in that same stitch. Okay, so here is my last, that's my 19th single crochet in this center single crochet of the corner. I'm going to put 2 single crochets. And now I'm going to work my way down the next side of the blanket. So remember, you're going to work 24 single crochets down one side of the triangle. You're going to do a single chain 2 together where the triangles meet. You're going to work 24 more single crochets down that edge of that triangle, and then you're going to do 1 single crochet in the square and then move right into the next triangle. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and complete this row number 1 of the border, and I will come back when I get to the end of it. Okay, so when you get to the end of row 1, you're going to slip stitch into the very first chain that we started in. Okay, then you're going to chain 4, do a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, all into that same stitch. Okay, and if you notice here, I actually went into the next stitch, so be really careful when you start out right here that you go into that same stitch. Okay, so here is my chain 4, and then you want a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and make sure it's all in the same stitch. Okay, then you're going to skip 2 stitches, do a V-stitch in the next stitch. Okay, here is my V-stitch. I'm going to do that again. So skip 2 stitches and then do a V-stitch. And after you've done 2 V-stitches, then you're going to skip 3 stitches. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Then you're going to do a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And all of those are going to be in the same stitch. Okay, so you have your starting little shell here. Then you're going to skip 2, V-stitch, skip 2, V-stitch, skip 3. Then you're going to do double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Okay, skip 3 stitches, do a V-stitch, skip 2 stitches again, and do another V-stitch. Okay, now you're going to skip 2 stitches and do a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Okay, then you're going to skip 2 stitches again and do a V-stitch. Okay, and you're going to do 7 V-stitches down the triangle. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll come back when I get down to the point down here. Okay, Okay, so I've completed my 7 V-stitches down the side of the triangle. Now I'm here at the tip of where 3 triangles come together, okay? Now you're going to skip 4 stitches and you're going to do a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So we want a series of 5 double crochets with chain 1s in between them, and we want those all in the same stitch, which is at the point of those 3 triangles. Okay, so let me go ahead and get that done. And let me stop and check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so now I'm going to skip 4 stitches again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I'm going to do my series of 7 V stitches down the triangle. Okay? And this is what you're going to be doing all the way around the blanket, okay? So when you come to your series of 3 triangles right here, you're going to do your 7, skip 4 stitches, your series of 5 double chain 1s, okay? So, and I'll come back when I get down here to the valley down here. Okay. So once you get down here to the bottom, you're going to skip 3 stitches. Okay, so 1, 2, and 3. Then you're going to do your V stitch into the next stitch. Okay? Now I'm going to be working my way back up my triangles again. So remember, I'm going to do 7 V stitches, skip 4 stitches, do my series of 5 double crochet chain 1s, and then work my way back down. And I will come back when I get to the next corner. Okay, so I've come to the square piece that is at each corner of the blanket, okay? And I just came, I had my 3 triangle point, I did my 7 V stitches down this side, and now I'm going to show you how to go ahead and move to across the corner, okay? So you're going to skip 2 stitches and do a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, all in the same stitch, okay? Then we're going to skip 2 stitches and do a V stitch, skip 2 stitches and do another V stitch. Whoops, I lost this. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so skip 2 stitches, do a V stitch, skip 2 more stitches and do another V stitch. After that, you're going to skip 3 stitches and do a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Okay, this is the same as when we first started this row at a square. Okay, now I'm going to skip 3 stitches, do a V stitch, skip 2 stitches and do another V stitch, skip 2 stitches and do the double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have. So you're going to have your series of 3 double crochet, chain 1s, 2 V stitches, skip 3 stitches and do your 3 double crochet, chain 1 series right here, skip 3 more stitches, do 2 V-stitches, skip 2 stitches, and do your series, whoops, I forgot a chain 1 in there, to a double crochet, chain 1 with 3 double crochets, okay, all in the same stitch. And that is how you're going to work each of your corners, okay? So now the rest of your blanket is going, I've showed you how to do this row. So remember, work your 7 V-stitches up the row, skip 4, do your series of 5 double crochet chain 1s at the tip, skip 4 stitches, and do your 7 V-stitches back down, skip 3 stitches down here at the bottom, and then you're going to repeat this all the way around the blanket, okay? And I will come back at the end of this row and show you how to end it and start the next row. Okay, so I've come back around to the beginning. You are going to want to slip stitch into the top of your double crochet. So we did a chain 4 here, so those first 3 chains are considered your double crochet. So I'm gonna slip stitch into that 3rd chain, slip stitch into the next chain 1 space. Okay, now we're going to do a chain 4 and do a double crochet into the same space. Okay, we're going to do a V-stitch into the next chain 1 space, and a V-stitch into the chain 1 space of each V-stitch across the square. Okay. So remember, a V-stitch is a double crochet, chain 1 double crochet, and you want to put one of those V-stitches into the chain 1 space of each of the V-stitches from the previous row, and we're going to do that across the square, okay? When you get to this in the middle where we had a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, you're going to put a V-stitch in each of those chain 1 spaces, and then continue putting V-stitches into the chain 1 space of the rest of the square. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing with this double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. You're going to put a V-stitch into each of the chain 1 spaces, okay? Okay, now we're going to go ahead and put a V-stitch into the chain 1 space of each of these V-stitches across the first triangle. Okay. Okay, so I'm continuing my V-stitches into the chain 1 spaces, and then I'm going to show you what to do when you get to the point of your 3 triangles. Okay, so here we have a double crochet, chain 1, and it's a series of 5 double crochets with spaces, okay? Go ahead and put a V-stitch into that first chain 1 space, okay? So I'm going to put a V-stitch in the first one, Now you're going to skip that second chain one space, okay, and you're going to do a V-stitch into that third double crochet, okay? So here's 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, and 3. It is the middle double crochet, and you want to put a V-stitch into that double crochet. Now you're going to skip the double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet, and you're going to put a V-stitch into that next chain 1 space. Okay, so that is how you're going to work each of these points. Then you're going to work a V-stitch into each V-stitch across this triangle. Okay, so now I'm at the bottom of our border row right here, and I want to go over this again. The first thing you're going to do is do a double crochet into this first V-stitch down here, okay, and a chain 1. Now we're going to do our double crochet 2 together, and the way that you do that is to yarn over, go into the same stitch, yarn over and bring up a loop, okay, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Now we're going to yarn over again, go into the next V-stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Now you should have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all 3. Chain 1 and do a double crochet into the same space that we did the last post of our double crochet 2 together. Okay, so that completes this bottom part of our border. We're going to go ahead and crochet along all your rows, and I will come back at the next corner to give you another example of that. Okay, so I'm at the corner, the next corner, and I just want to go over how you're going to do this. So you're basically going to put a V-stitch into each chain 1 space. So right here we have a grouping of 3 double chains. We're going to put a V-stitch in, oh I'm sorry, that's 3 double crochets. You're going to put a V-stitch in each chain 1 space, okay? So here is the first V-stitch, skip that middle double crochet and do a V-stitch into the next one. Okay, now we're going to do a V-stitch in each chain 1 space of each of these next 2 V-stitches from the previous row. Here's one, here's the next one. Okay, now we have another grouping of 3 double crochets. So you're going to put a V-stitch in each of those chain 1 spaces. Okay, there's the first one. Here is the second one. Now we're going to put a V-stitch in the chain 1 space of each of these next 2 V-stitches from the previous row. Oops, oops, goodness. Okay, and now we're at another 3 double crochets. So you're going to put a V-stitch in each chain 1 space. Okay, here's my next one. Okay, and now you're back to working your triangles. So go ahead and just work your way around on this row, and I'll come back at the end of it. Okay, so when we come to the end of this row, we're going to do an invisible join. So I'm going to take my needle and go through that 3rd chain, come back, and go here, and there is the invisible join. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our next color. Okay, start with a slip knot, and we're going to do a standing double crochet into that next chain one space from where we did our invisible join. Okay, so a standing double crochet, wind your yarn one time, go into under the stitch. Okay, so let me show you that again. Okay, so wind your yarn one time on your hook, go into the space where you're going to do your double crochet, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull up through 2 loops, and yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Okay, chain 1, do another double crochet into that same stitch. Now if you notice, we have the next 2 stitches are double crochets. Okay, and we're going to do a V-stitch between those 2 double crochets. So double crochet, chain 1, and then double crochet again. Now we have our next V-stitch. We're going to put a V-stitch in the top of that one. Okay, now we're going to put a V-stitch in each of the next 7 V-stitches across. Okay, so I will come back when I get that done. Okay, so after you get those 7 V-stitches across, you're going to have 2 double crochets that are right next to each other. We want to put a V-stitch in between those 2 double crochets and a V-stitch in the next chain 1 space. Okay, then we're going to do a V-stitch into each of the next 7 V-stitches. Okay, and I will come back when we get to the next peak over here. Okay, so after those 7 V-stitches, we come to the top of our peak, and we have a top V-stitch with 2 to either side. Go ahead and put a V-stitch in the next chain 1 space. Then in the middle of the peak, or the very top V-stitch, we're going to put a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet, all in that top chain 1 space. Put a V-stitch into the next chain 1 space. Okay, and that is what you're going to do at the top of each peak. Okay, now you're going to do 7 V-stitches in each V-stitch across, and then we will come to the bottom of the border, and I will show you how to do that. Okay, so sorry, that was 6 V-stitches across, okay, instead of 7. So we come to the bottom of our border down here, and what you're going to do is a double crochet 2 together in each of these bottom 2 V-stitches. Okay, so yarn over, go into the chain 1 space, yarn over and bring it up, yarn over and bring through 2 loops. Now yarn over and go through the space again, and yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull through 3 loops. Okay, now we're going to be doing a V-stitch in each of the next 7 V-stitches. Okay, all the way up to the top again. Okay, until you get to the top of your peak again, and then you know what to do. So I will come back when I get to the next corner. Okay, so I've come to the corner now that you can tell, and I'll show you what we're going to do. So we have our cluster of V-stitches right here. So we're going to put a V-stitch into the first chain 1 space. Then we're going to put a V-stitch between those 2 double crochet posts. okay? A V-stitch into the next chain 1 space. Then we're going to work 7 V-stitches across. Okay, so a V-stitch in each of the V-stitches below. And that 7th V-stitch ends up being in our ending cluster of V-stitches. So after that one, you're going to put a V-stitch between those 2 double crochet posts. And then a V-stitch into the next chain 1 space. Okay, so now that covers how to do this border row. I will come back at the end on how to end it and start the next border row. Okay, so I've come back around and I'm going to join with an invisible join in the top of the first double crochet right here. Okay. Now to start our next row, we're going to change colors, okay? And then you're going to start with a slip knot, okay? And we're going to start in the next space, the next chain 1 space from where we did our invisible join, okay? So, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so this is the place we're going to start in. We're going to start with a standing double crochet. So remember, have your knot on your hook, yarn over, go into the space where you're making your double crochet and yarn over, bring up a loop, yarn over and go through 2 loops, and yarn over and go through another loop, okay? Then you're going to chain 1 and do a double crochet into the same stitch. Skip the next 2 stitches, and in this chain 1 space or V-stitch, we're going to do double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, oops, chain 1, double crochet. Okay, and you are going to do that in each of these middle V-stitch clusters at either side of your corner squares, okay? So now we're going to do a V-stitch in each of these V-stitches across just until you get to this middle V-stitch cluster at the end of the square, okay? So I'm going to do V-stitches across, and I'll come back when I get to the other end of this square. Okay, so after my double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, I did 8 V-stitches. Now I'm going to do that same 3 double crochet series into the next V-stitch. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. Okay, now I'm going to work a V-stitch into each of these V-stitches along the square all the way till I get to the top of the peak where I have another series of 3 double crochets. Okay, so I will show you that, and I'll come back when I get to that point. Okay, so now I've gotten to the top of the peak where I have this 3 double crochet shell thing, and you're going to do a V-stitch into each of the chain 1 spaces. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to move down the row back down to the bottom, okay, and I'll come back when I get to that point. Okay, so now that I have gotten down to the bottom down here, let me show you where I'm at. So here's our 3 triangle peak right here, and then here's the bottom down between them right here. So what you're going to do, you're just going to skip these 3 stitches at the bottom. So we did V stitches all the way down here, and now you're just going to move across and do V stitches going up on the other side. Okay? So now V stitches back up to the top. And now I will come back when I get to the next corner and show you what we will be doing then. Okay, so I've made it to a corner, and if you look at our last row right here, we have at each corner of the square, you have a cluster of 3 V-stitches on each side, okay? So in the first one, you're going to do a V-stitch, just a regular V-stitch like what we've been doing. But in the middle chain 1 space of the middle V-stitch, you're going to do a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Okay? Then a V-stitch in the next one, in the next chain 1 space. Okay? Then we're going to do V-stitches all the way across until we get to this middle V-stitch, and then we're going to do the same thing we did on this one over here. Okay? So the first V-stitch of this 3 V-stitch cluster, I'm just going to do a regular V-stitch into it. Okay? In the middle V-stitch cluster, I'm going to do a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And that all goes in that middle V-stitch of these 3 V-stitches. Okay, now you're just going to continue what you've been doing with your V-stitches going around, and I'll come back at the end of this row. Okay, so I finished this row, and we're going to join with an invisible join again. Okay, so I pulled it through, and now I'm going to go ahead and join it right here and go into this one, and then I will bury those later. Okay, so then the next thing we're going to do is again switch to your next color and start with a slip knot, and we're going to start with a standing double crochet in the stitch that we just in the chain 1 space following where we just ended. Okay, so here's where I buried my stitch or did my invisible join. Okay, so my next chain 1 space is going to be right here, and we're going to do a standing double crochet. So wind over, go into your hook and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops, and yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Okay, chain 1 and then do a double crochet into the same stitch, skip 2 stitches and do a V-stitch in the next chain 1 space. Okay, and then we are going to skip the next stitch and do a V-stitch in the chain 1 space again. Okay, so we end up with a V-stitch in each of these 3 places right here, each of these 3 chain 1 spaces. Okay, so now we're going to do V-stitches all the way across here until we get to the next corner. Okay, and then I will show you how to do that. Okay, so once you get to the next corner and you see where you have 3 double crochets in the same V-stitch, you want to put a V-stitch in each of the chain 1 spaces between those double crochets. Okay, so we're going to have 2 V-stitches in this in between these double crochets. Okay, now we're going to work a V-stitch into each of these next V-stitches, okay, until we get to the peak or the top of our next high spot, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and work my V-stitches across. Okay, so now once you get to the top of your high spot, your peak, where your 3 triangles point up to, you should have 2 V-stitches at the top, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to put a V-stitch into the first V-stitch that's below. Then you're going to put a V-stitch between those 2 double crochet posts, okay? So another V-stitch between the 2 double crochet posts, and then a V-stitch in the next V-stitch. So the next chain 1 space, you're going to put a V-stitch, okay? Now I'm going to work my way down here. And once I get down here, I will come back and show you how you do the lower portion of the border, okay? Okay, so now once you get down to the bottom of the border, you're going to do a double crochet into that first V-stitch and a chain 1. Then we're going to do a double crochet 2 together. So yarn over, go into the stitch and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops, okay? Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and yarn over and pull through 3 loops, okay? So now we're going to chain 1 and then a double crochet into that same V-stitch, okay? This is the same thing that we did on the row 4 border, I believe, right here, okay? So we're just going to keep moving across and working on this border, and I'll come back when I get to the next corner. Okay, so I've come to the corner pieces where we have our square at the corner, okay, and you'll see that we have at each of our corners we have a V-stitch that has 3 double crochets in it on each side, okay, with a chain 1 space in between them. So this is really easy. All you're going to do is you're going to put a V-stitch in each chain 1 space. Okay, so okay, so a V-stitch in each chain 1 space across. Sorry, let me bring that down here. Okay, so here's one, chain 1 space. Okay, and then I'm going to do a V-stitch in this next chain 1 space right here. Now I'm going to do them in my each a V-stitch in each V-stitch across to the next corner V-stitch of 3 double crochets. Okay, so I'm going to work across now. Okay, so now I'm over to the next corner of our square. So again, you can see the 3 double crochets with the chain 1 space between them, and I'm going to put a V-stitch in each of those chain 1 spaces. Okay, here we go, and that is how you do the corners. And now you're just going to continue this pattern around, and I will come back at the end of it, and then we only have 1 row left before we complete our blanket. And I'm ready to do my invisible join. I'm going to come over here to the top of my double crochet and put it in, and then into this one. And there we go, and I will bury those later. Okay, so for this row, it's our last row of the blanket. You're going to join with a standing single crochet in any double crochet. Okay, so I've just done my standing single crochet. In every double crochet stitch, you're going to do a single crochet. In every chain one space, you're going to do a picot. Okay, so the next one is a chain one space, so I'm going to do a picot, and you do that by doing a single crochet, chain 3, then slip stitch into the single crochet that you started with. Okay, so there's the picot. Then I'm going to do a single crochet into the next 2 double crochets. And then the next one is a chain one space. So again, that's a picot. So do a single crochet, chain 3, then do a slip stitch into that single crochet. Okay, do a single crochet in the next 2 double crochets. And then the next one is a chain one space. So I'm going to do a picot again. So again, it's a single crochet, chain 3, then insert your hook into that single crochet that you just did. And then you're going to do a slip stitch. So you're going to pull the loop all the way through all the loops, okay? And you're going to do this all the way around, and this is what it's going to end up looking like at the end, okay? So this is just this row. It's very easy. It's just picots and single crochets, and I'll come back at the end to show you how to close. Okay, so at the end here, I joined with a slip stitch, and I finished all the borders. So let me pull it out and show you what the finished product looks like. And I hope these videos helped everybody. And I love seeing everybody's blankets. Sorry about that. Please keep showing everybody your progress and your wonderful color choices. And good luck with your Kaleidoscope blanket. And I also want to say a big thank you to Catherine Bligh for putting this wonderful pattern out there for all of us to make something beautiful, especially during this trying time for everybody. Thank you, Catherine.